It's your Thursday Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Happy to have you guys all back for another day on the show. A really good one coming up, as always, but in particular today, Adam Thielen, former Vikings wide receiver, will join me here in just a few minutes to talk about his last year with the Vikings, kind of how that ended, his new beginning with Carolina, and a whole bunch of other things in between. So hope you will enjoy that conversation with Adam Thielen. Got some Twins stuff at the end. Some an opponent of the Twins still not over the Astros cheating scandal of several years ago, and quite frankly, I am here for it. I'm still not over it either. Even though Carlos Correa is with the Twins now, even though that is many years in the past. I thought it was interesting to read a quote about how that game ended and how some people still view that whole episode. Some good news for the Gophers women's basketball team. They landed 2 new players, including a player who flipped her commitment from West Virginia to Minnesota, and a Wisconsin recruit at that. 2 recruits from Wisconsin now brought in by new head coach Don Plitzowite. So we'll get to that at the end of the show. First, though, what did I miss? I mentioned we'll have Adam Thielen here in just a few minutes, but the guy who threw him passes for the last 5 seasons with the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, met with the Twin Cities media on Wednesday, talked about the offseason, talked about the year ahead, and an interesting year at that, with the Vikings this past year deciding not to being able to agree to a long-term contract extension with Cousins, making him, pushing essentially this to be his last potential year with the Vikings, set to be a free agent come February, March next year. This is the first time Cousins has talked to us really since that all came to light, and since the Vikings, had some interest in the draft in maybe taking a quarterback. They were, the mock drafts were suggesting Hendon Hooker from Tennessee, although they passed on him. A lot of steam towards the end that they really liked Anthony Richardson, and I think if he would have fallen further, they would have taken Anthony Richardson and be able to move up in the draft to take him. So with that as a backdrop, Cousins met with the media, and I had a few thoughts on what he had to say. Full disclosure, I was not there, but I did listen back to what he had to say, and I thought a few things struck me. Let's just get, first of all, Cousins' reaction. The first kind of question off the bat, I believe this was from the Star Tribune's Mark Craig, just on his thoughts on how the offseason has played out so far.
Yeah, I think, you're always looking in the future. You're always thinking about different options, and I think everybody's got to do their due diligence. And so, I'm looking forward to this year and wanting to, go out there and prove it again and do it again and play at the highest level I can. And that's really where my focus is.
Before I add a little context, I also want to play a longer soundbite from Cousins when he was asked kind of how, does this change his approach this year, and like how does he think of the Vikings now that they have essentially decided that this could be his last year with the team? Does that change his outlook, anything like that? I thought he'd give a nice, thoughtful answer to that question, so I want to play that as well.
I think in this league there should never be entitlement. You always got to go play, and teams can do whatever they want to do. That's their prerogative. So you just go to work, you do the best you can, and I'm, again, encouraged and excited because I do think I have a lot of good football ahead of me. So got to go out there and earn that. But I feel positive about the future looking forward. And, I go back to how this has kind of been a part of my story. So I'll go back even before, you probably know, Kevin, high school. Remember the Holland Sentinel, our paper in my hometown, asking me my senior year of high school. I'm going into my senior year with no scholarship offers. And there were schools looking at me, definitely. I knew I had a chance, but no scholarship offers. And I walked off the field the last game of my high school career, no scholarship offers. And so that whole season you get the question from the Holland Sentinel, like, how are you focused on that? How are you handling that? And I learned you got to focus on winning football games. And if you win football games and do your part and put your work in, the rest will take care of itself. That certainly happened in my high school career. Then you get to the end of college, the same thing happens my senior year, same kind of thought. How do you think about this season, but the future? And just go win football games for Michigan State and good things will happen. That certainly played out. And then this is my 4th time in this league going into a season with free agency on the horizon. My 4th year after my rookie contract, and the 2 years in Washington after that, and now this. So I would just say that to say it's more the norm than the exception. Yeah. I think the exception is that you have something penciled in for future years. Most of our locker room has no idea what's coming in 3 or 4 months, let alone 3 or 4 years or next year. So I feel like I'm one of the guys, if you will. Like, we're all in this together, and that's the way this league works. And I think it's part of what makes this league great, because everybody has an edge. Everybody's working. Everybody's got something to prove, and nobody can operate with entitlement or comfort and put in less than their best. And I think that's a great thing about our league.
Now, I've got a couple other clips that I want to play, but I want to pause here because I'm going to add some context to this. I think this is absolutely true, of course, that he's been in this situation before. He points that out, and this is his 4th time as a pro that he's been in this spot where essentially he doesn't know where he's going to be the next year. 3 consecutive years with Washington, 1 kind of the end of his rookie deal, and then those 2 years he played on the franchise tag, and now here in Minnesota. The difference is this is the first time that he's going through this with the Vikings. This has been a franchise that has made a heavy investment in him, and he's never been playing really year to year with the Vikings. He's signed short, medium-term contracts, but he's never gone into a year where it was potentially his last year. Remember 2019, after that season, got a contract extension. 2021, got another 1-year extension going into the 2022 season to make it a 2-year deal, essentially. He's always usually had 2 or 3 years left on his deal to kind of have that sense of at least medium-term security that he knew he was going to be here the year after, that he knew that kind of what he could expect from that. So that to me is interesting. This is the first time he's gone through it with the Vikings, and it's the first time he's really gone through this kind of process with the new regime. They extended him last year. Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, probably more the Kwesi decision than Kevin O'Connell's decision, but they extended him for the 1 year last year when they first got here. But now, really having had a year with him in the system, making this decision right now is interesting to me, that they've decided that this is kind of where they are. They haven't closed the door on bringing him back, of course, in 2024 and beyond. I think that would be unwise to do that. You never make a decision before you have to make a decision, but the fact that this is a new regime, a regime that inherited Kirk Cousins, not the regime that sought out Kirk Cousins originally, that plays into this as well, because he has to be feeling that even though he has their support, you mentioned them right off the bat, he has their support, he's appreciative of what they've done, that to him is, that to me, as it relates to Cousins, is interesting, that these are not the people that brought him in. These are people that can work with him. These are people that value him, but maybe ultimately they are going to make a different decision. Now, on the flip side of this, I think they can make that decision and know that it won't torpedo the 2023 season, because Cousins is a professional. He's been in this spot before. He can put the blinders on. He knows what it's like to play essentially on a 1-year contract, and they know that he will give not just a professional effort, he will give professional responses. He will not become a problem in public with this. I don't think, at least. I think that's his track record. I think he will be mature about this. He will let his play on the field speak for itself. I think that's exactly what he's saying right now. I think a lot of his answers are probably what we would have expected, but that's also kind of goes to a certain level of maturity. You know what you're going to get from Kirk Cousins, both in terms of his emotional responses and his statistics and play on the field, and that has value, especially in this year heading into a potential offseason of unknowns. Now, I did think it was interesting that at a couple of different points, Cousins seemed to be making a case for continuity. Maybe not so much for himself, but he definitely values continuity. He's not had a lot of that in terms of systems, offensive coordinators, things like that. But at the very beginning, before answering any questions, he talked a lot about a lot of familiar faces back in the building, how much that helps, and being kind of in year 2 of this system and being ahead of the game in that regard. So let's listen to that quick.
It is difficult for that same reason to lose guys like Adam and Eric and Pat, because it's the same thing with them. You realize how much you enjoyed working with them, and they're all special players and special people, and were big leaders for us. So it's tough to lose them, but I'm also encouraged by how many people we have back. I had texted Brian O'Neill right before free agency, feeling like, man, is this locker room going to look a lot different? And then to have Alex Madison back, and Garrett Bradbury back, and Greg Joseph, and Depot, and The list goes on Nick Mullins in the quarterback room. It was just great to kind of be able to have that consistency. Harrison Smith coming back, C.J. Ham. So that was really encouraging. And I think football so much is about continuity and chemistry. And when you constantly have turnover, it's hard to create that. And so when you feel like, I'm in my second or third year with people around me, that's really encouraging. And, the O-line, much the same way, to have that group together, the coaches in that room together, to feel like we can build on last year and have all had that shared experience, I think will really help.
Now, whether he's making a pitch like, hey, let's keep this going in 2024 and beyond, I don't know. It's probably more focused on 2023, excited that he has continuity and excited that he has this opportunity. But I do think he is of the mind that he wants to go out and earn it in 2023 to put himself in a position to still be the long-term quarterback here. And if it doesn't work out here, of course, putting up good numbers in 2023, having relative success again in 2023 can only help him in the future no matter where it is. So I think both sides are probably at a spot right now where they want to see Cousins prove it a little bit more. Even though he's a veteran, even though you kind of know what you're going to get, they want to see him do it again. If he wins a lot this year, if he has a big year, maybe he would come back in 2024. I'm not sure about that. I kind of feel like they are at a spot where they are determined to a certain degree to move on, but by not drafting a quarterback this last draft, they have put themselves in a spot, the Vikings, where Cousins, the door is open. If he has a big year, if he's able to do these things to prove it, that he should be the long-term quarterback still, even into his age 36, 37, 38 seasons, then maybe there still is a long-term proposal here. But in the short term, I think both sides can get something out of this. The Vikings get another year of steady quarterbacking. Kirk Cousins gets another year on his resume to prove it, that he can still do it at age 35, that he can still compete and play at a high level. He's got another weapon around him now with Jordan Addison. It'd be interesting to see how KJ Osborne fits into that, and I'll mention that in a little bit. He's got a lot of things around him that can make him successful this season. Oh, and by the way, it was interesting that he did not mention Dalvin Cook in the list of all the players coming back. I thought that was interesting. But anyway, that's a kind of beside the point. It's an interesting kind of thing where they're at right now, but I feel like with a different player, this has the potential to be volatile. With Kirk Cousins, there's a low level of volatility even in a season of uncertainty. If someone's going to embrace the uncertainty and be able to push through it and give a professional effort, it is someone like Kirk Cousins. It is that quarterback, and that is something that they should not undervalue in 2023.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is playday.
Man that needs no introduction in Minnesota, Adam Thielen, longtime Vikings wide receiver, now with the Carolina Panthers. Strange for me to say, maybe strange still a little bit for you to hear, Adam, but it seems like you're adapting pretty well. And joining me here on a mission with some promotional tie-ins too with Ambassador Hot Dogs. Adam, how you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It definitely is a little different, but things happen so fast, and then boom, you're with a new team. So it's been fun, kind of getting to know Charlotte and my teammates and the organization. It's been really fun.
Did you, now just knowing this, is the whole family there right now, or how are you kind of doing that? Because you've been in Minnesota your whole life, your family, you got roots here, stuff like that. How is that piece of it?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different for us. We haven't had to, kind of do the traveling thing throughout OTAs, but the boys are finishing up school in Minnesota, and I'm flying back and forth every weekend, and then I'll be there for the summer month that we get off. Which is exciting. It's always good to get back to Minnesota. Perfect time for grilling season with the Ambassador hot dogs, and my boys love that. So, I think more of like, I love the grilling season for sure, but I think more of like the campfires and going up north to the lake and having some Ambassador hot dogs over the campfires is the best way for me.
Now, getting used to your time in Carolina, I listened to you I listened to your appearance with with the media last week. Obviously, listened to you, a couple, was it maybe a month ago that you're on with McAfee? Just kind of talking through the whole process as you kind of watched this whole thing unfold. What did free agency, what did leaving here feel like, and how do you feel like it wound up where you are now?
Yeah, I think there's like two sides of it, right? I think it was a bummer. I didn't want to leave Minnesota. I wanted to end my career there. Obviously, that would be, the perfect, fairy tale way to do it, right? But that's not reality. And I'm so thankful for that organization, Kwesi and KOC and just that whole staff. The way that they handled everything through this process, I thought was as first class as you could possibly do it. And it wasn't an easy process, but if that wasn't going to happen, that kind of fairy tale ending, I couldn't imagine it working out any better than it did. Just coming here to Charlotte, a city that we've fallen in love with, and then an organization that just is been, so good to us, from the culture that's being created here, the kind of what's being built here is really something special. And there's some really great people, not only in that locker room, but in that organization that have really made the transition as easy as possible.
And I've heard you just a couple times talk about, last season, the fit, the role here, not that you were necessarily unhappy with it, but maybe as you looked in free agency that there was maybe different opportunities. What last year maybe wasn't ideal, or it just, did you feel like the offense kind of tilted one way or the other? Justin Jefferson's become this, amazing, star player here. Now, I've heard you say you never want, you never take catches away from somebody else. You're not, going to ask for a certain number of targets, things like that. But was there a role that you wanted, that you weren't getting here maybe last year?
Yeah, it's really hard to explain the entire situation. I don't think there was ever a point where I was, unhappy with what I was doing. I think it was pretty clear that they had a different vision for me than maybe I had, for a way that I could help the team win games. And there wasn't a wrong thing. It was no disrespect on either side. I think it was just kind of time for both sides to kind of move on. And through the whole process after the season, through, before free agency started, I think that was just it was so much respect from both sides that no one really wanted to no one wanted to make that move. It was just there was so much respect that we just kind of wanted to do it the right way. And I think it was done that way. Again, unfortunately, I'm not in Minnesota because that would be the fairy tale ending. I would love to be in Minnesota with my teammates, my guys, that staff, that organization. So much respect, but that's just how this league works. 10 years in one place is an absolute blessing, especially when it's in a place that I have obviously so many ties to and so much love for. So I'm thankful for my time, and I'm also just excited for where I'm at now. And I'm kind of a guy that where my feet are is where I'm at. And I'm excited just to keep going to work and keep getting better.
I promise you, I'll ask you a couple of forward-looking questions. I'm not going to live in the past forever, but the draft was last week. Vikings took a wide receiver. I'm sure you noticed that. What did you make of that? Obviously, is you've seen people try to draft. You saw Justin Jefferson was kind of the replacement for Stephon Diggs. You've seen other first-round picks, Laquan Treadwell in 2016. I'm sure you noticed that they took a wide receiver, and maybe that kind of cemented, hey, maybe this is kind of the direction they wanted to go.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of already knew that. I kind of figured that was going to happen. I think who they drafted, I got a lot of respect for him. I think he's going to be a great football player, and they have a great eye for good talent. But at the same time, I think there's guys that are already there that can replace me, and that have proven that they can replace me very quickly. And so I'm really hoping that they give those guys the rightful shot, because I just think that some of those guys are extremely talented and have put their time in to really go out there and have some really big years to help Justin, have a lot of success. You can't ever take the ball out of his hands. You got to give him his opportunities, because he's a difference maker. He's a 1 in a billion type of guy He's a once in a generation a guy to be able to change a culture and change a team. But I think there's ways that guys can kind of help take some pressure off him, and those guys are in that building already.
Who specifically are you talking about? Guys like Osborne or beyond that on the depth chart?
Yeah, I think there's other guys as well, but I really look at a guy like KJ, who has proven it in games several times in big moments, and that he can go out and he can do everything. He can be outside, inside. He can block. He can run routes. He can run the whole route tree, and then he can make big plays. So I just think that I have so much respect for him and his game, and think he's going to have a huge year.
Now, you caught passes from Kirk Cousins for the last 5 years. Now you've got a number 1 overall pick who we presume will be the starter there. Like, not so fast, you got to earn it on the field, things like that. But what's going through your head as you think about working already with Bryce Young and working with a rookie quarterback who's got, worlds of talent, but still obviously needs to develop in the NFL?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I obviously was able to really get to understand some of the quarterbacks that we were going to draft, just because knowing that, that was a big part of being here. But I think his ability to not only be extremely talented and be able to make all the throws and be accurate, but also his ability to process the game. I just think that that's going to help him be able to adjust very quickly from college. And I'm very thankful that I get to be a part of it. I've been able to meet him a few times, even before the knowing that he was going to be our quarterback, and just an extremely mature, really just I've had just such great interactions with him, and excited to get him back here in the building and getting to work, because I think we're building something special here.
And you've been on record already saying you think this is a team that can compete quickly for a Super Bowl, or at least to be competitive. You look around the NFC, it's a little bit more wide open than maybe it has been, and your division is fairly open. What else besides that within your building gives you the confidence that this is a team that's on the rise and can be a factor even as soon as this year?
Well, with saying what I'm about to say, I think it's the reason why I'm here. I think it was the opportunity to be a part of building something special is really why I'm a Carolina Panther. And obviously the staff and the organization, just so many good people that have such great football knowledge. And then you kind of start looking through the roster, some unbelievable young talent, a great defense that was statistically one of the better defenses in the NFL last year, an offensive line that might be one of the top offensive lines in the NFL. And then just the pieces that they've added along with what was already here. And I've been able to get to know some of these guys, maybe that don't have a lot of respect or not, maybe that's not even the word, maybe just understanding of who they are from outside the building. But being around some of these guys, there's some real talent that people maybe don't even know about. That's really going to help us win football games this year. So I'm excited to keep building. Obviously, we got a long ways to go. Just putting in new schemes, new offense, defense. But excited about that process. A
couple more things for you, Adam. Appreciate your time here. We tend to age athletes. You're not that old, even for a football player. You're certainly not old for a human being. But there's that talk of, how old you are, and that maybe you're now kind of in that role of being a veteran kind of leader. My curiosity is, when do you become that? Like, do you just wake up one day or 1 year and you're like, okay, all of a sudden I'm a veteran leader now. I'm not the young guy anymore. How does that process play out? Because I got to imagine it's kind of like, maybe it happens suddenly or maybe it happens gradually.
Yeah, I think it happens gradually over time. I think you earn that respect to be a leader by what you do on and off the field. And then I think for me, it's you got to go prove it on the field every single day. You got to show that you're not getting older and slowing down. My goal every single day is to show that I can still play at a high level, that I can run, I can move, I can run all the routes. And I think that's something that, again, you can't just talk about that. You can't just say that. You have to go out there and prove it every single day. And that's what's exciting for me. I think this offseason was just a great offseason for me, because I was able to just, from the day the season was over, I was able to get back to training and try to get stronger and faster and more explosive and really work on just kind of taking care of my body so that I can go out here and prove it once we get on the field.
If you come back to Minnesota, at the end of your career, when your playing days are over, and you decide to write a tell-all book about your time with the Vikings, all the stuff we don't know, how big would that book be?
I think it'd be pretty big, but I think anybody could say that, whether you're in a business or in an organization. I think anybody could have some serious stories from your time, especially when you spend a lot of time in one place. But a lot of great memories in Minnesota. A lot of great people that I miss big time. But at the same time, I'm just starting to learn some new people, and really I've already started to build some great relationships here in this organization, and that's really exciting for me.
I won't make you say it, but I bet the chapter on Stefon Diggs would be fairly lengthy, and we'll leave it at that. Adam Thielen, appreciate your time, appreciate all of what you were able to share with us today, and best of luck genuinely in Carolina.
I appreciate that. I can't wait to get back to Minnesota for the summer. You know, nothing better than a Minnesota summer, and enjoying some Ambassador hot dogs. You know, a Minnesota brand that really embodies that Minnesota culture. So it's good to be partnered with good Minnesota brands like Ambassador hot dogs, obviously.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with hot dog enthusiast and former Vikings great Adam Thielen. Interesting that he brought up there's a lot of guys in the room that he thinks can already replace him, specifically signaling KJ Osborne could be ready for bigger and better things. Osborne had 60 catches last season already. I wonder if he slides more naturally into that wide receiver 2 role, or if it's more of a shared responsibility now with Jordan Addison, the number 23 overall pick in that mix as well. I don't know. We know who the number 1 is. It's Justin Jefferson, and I think Adam Thielen gave good nuanced answers to the questions about kind of his role, his fit last year. I still don't think he loved where he kind of fit into this offense last year, that he wasn't so much of a focal point or wasn't used in a way where he could be a more complementary player instead of more of a secondary player in this offense. I guess time will tell. 2023 will tell us if the Vikings made the right decision. If he goes and has a big year in Carolina, maybe he's validated. If the Vikings offense flourishes without Adam Thielen and Jordan Addison brings them an added dimension they didn't have there, if KJ Osborne takes a step forward, maybe the Vikings are validated. Maybe both sides are validated. Maybe both sides struggle. We will see. That's why they play the games, but I really enjoyed having Adam on and getting his perspectives on where things went and where they are headed. Speaking of where things went and where things are headed, interesting finish to the Twins game. They lost for the second consecutive game to the previously struggling White Sox, just the 10th win this year for the White Sox. Twins falling to 17-14. Rough start for Louis Varland. A reminder that they do not just automatically get good starts from the bottom part of the rotation from these guys that are replacing Kenta Maeda and Tyler Mahle while they are out injured. Varland gave up 4 runs in 4 innings, the big blast being a 3-run homer in the first. So, trying to figure that piece out is going to be one thing. The Twins squandered a lot of opportunities, though, in this game. And had a bases-loaded chance in the 7th, didn't score. Then the White Sox break a tie, end up winning 6-4, the last out of the game. Keenan Middleton, reliever for the White Sox, struck out Carlos Correa, and it was his first save since 2021. And he talked after the game about facing Correa, and he played Correa a lot back in the day when they were on different teams. When Correa was with Houston, Middleton was in the AL West for quite a while. He said, "I knew I was going to face Correa, and I don't like him, so it was kind of cool. I like that. I enjoyed that a lot. I mean, he's a cheater." Interesting that still is coming up in 2023. I don't begrudge it. I still think about it. I think some people, Royce and I have talked about this on Mondays a few different times. We have a lot of different opinions on forgiving, forgetting. The Astros cheating scandal was, 6 years ago was the season that it happened. It came to light, 3-4 years ago. That's kind of in the past. I don't think I'm ever going to be ready to fully let it go, and it's kind of interesting to see a player not really willing to let it go or not ready to let it go either. I think it doesn't come up nearly as much as it used to, but interesting to me that it came up in the context of the last out of a game in 2023, that it still fuels guys when they go against Carlos Correa, who, again, will be with the Twins for a very long time, and I'm sure We'll hear less and less of this over time as people kind of forget about it, but still coming up in 2023. Let's finish with the cooler. Gophers women's basketball coach Dawn Plitzowite got 2 recruits on Wednesday. A couple of good ones, it looks like. One from the transfer portal and one a high school recruit from the portal. This one was officially announced. Veteran guard Janae Sanders out of Appalachian State had 13.5 points a game last season, should help the Gophers in the backcourt right away. The bigger get, probably a prep player from Wisconsin, forward/center Ayanna Johnson, switched her commitment from West Virginia to the Gophers, and that is the second player out of Wisconsin now that the Gophers have gotten. And I do not believe they've gotten a lot of Wisconsin players in past years. If you think about basketball in Minnesota and Wisconsin, especially on the men's side, but also on the women's side, the pipeline of recruiting has certainly traveled more from west to east than it has from east to west. If Minnesota can start getting some of those players into this program, into the women's side, that will only be a boon, because there are a lot of good players in that state, and it needs to be a more equal coming and going of players from each side. So good gets for Dawn Plitzowite. Interesting to see how that season plays out for them. And we'll start to see that unfold in just a few months. That will do it for me today. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Some Minnesota United soccer talk coming up on Friday with John Marthaler. Plenty of other thoughts, too, on some KG comments on the Wolves recently. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Back at it again tomorrow.